All right, we're about to get on the range. We just did a gym day. Not a bad one. Yeah.
Not a bad day.
Yeah, the first one is kind of murder.
Yeah.
But in a good way. It's a good way. But we're about to get into the range. We're going to talk about
Performance anxiety and how that affects you and how to overcome that.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to one of the top 5,000 greatest shows on earth. Daddy's Issues up next. You guys, you're down here waiting to get on the range. So you may hear some popping in and off. That's okay. It's just tiny little explosions of freedom. Welcome back to Daddy's Issues. It's another one of our weekend episodes. So we're out here on the range. Today we're going to be talking about the same thing and paralysis by now, seeing what the kind of thing does to you when you're trying to integrate all the possibilities. So it's usually the result of like anxiety that you find.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We're going to be messing with our equipment here a little bit. The rank is a good place for me to start to explore my tendency to overthink, because I can harp on about it. Shut up about it. Got this injury to my right arm, and of course I'm right-handed. Sometimes the arm I happen to learn to reach. And I've learned that the AR-15 is just not safe because I can't control the weapon anymore. So I'm switching back up to one of my PCCs, and we're going to let that roll today. See how that does for us. Got a TBI, and my dominant eye is going wonky as well. So having to work around those issues to see what those look like. So we'll be putting all of that on the range today. So overthinking at work, big problem. I know something you struggled with. Kind of, what's that look like for you?
Overthinking at work. For me, it happens very natural. I don't even think about it. It just happens naturally. Even before I go to work, I'm always what to expect. I'm thinking of those kind of scenarios. I'm thinking about what other people are thinking about me. Well, a lot of it is irrational.
So you start overthinking before you even get to work. Like what's the day gonna look like? What I'm looking.
Oh yeah, as the day goes by, like as soon as I wake up, my immediately thought process is, here we go again. Like me going through the overthinking. Like, what is my day gonna look like? What is my work day gonna look like? What people are gonna think about me? Am I gonna perform well? Am I gonna, and it's all irrational in my opinion. And
why is it irrational? What evidence is there that those things aren't true?
for me, what the evidence that they're not true at all is the fact that like, I'm able to reassure myself that them on trial. Like I'm able to put my thought processes on trial and ask myself, is this really happening or not? Like, are people actually judging me? Am I actually doing a good job? And I reassure myself by actually, just reframing how I view myself in my workday. Um, I like I said, I put it on trial. I put some of I am doing a good job. People are there to support me. Stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. That's an interesting thing. Like you said, put it on trial, and that's language that I've heard before, in kind of mental health circles, in circles. So is this like a skill you always had, or
No,
you didn't have this skill?
absolutely not. I've learned it through months of and years of therapy. Hearing other people do it, putting your thoughts on trial means to basically stop. It's a way of pausing. It's a way of pausing your mindset when it races, and you get to reevaluate how you basically think, like how your thought processes go.
Okay. So, and I asked that because I think a lot of people, I'll see, especially on social media. I'm not going to do therapy because I'm not just going to pay some talk to me. Why wouldn't either? But, I think we do more than just talk to people in therapy. Right? So they pick it up skill that you're hoping maybe, and then that's been off the phone.
I remember that one video you filmed about how you mistakenly took therapy in the wrong direction and you found ways to
Yeah.
you
Just
know,
shit I did wrong in therapy.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And I've done the same thing. There's some times when, I'll talk to my therapist and I'm already thinking about what to say. I'm already thinking about a script of how to respond.
Right.
And I'm not actually taking things for how raw the experience should be. I'm more so just checking in a box. And that's by far the most detrimental thing I can do to myself is just checking the most important thing that could be happening to me, which is talk therapy as a check in the box.
Okay.
Like I'm not, adding any value to it. I'm just going with emotion.
That's a good point. I've recognized too, with the work that I do, peer work that I do, people want to vent, right? And it's very common to send they'll call in, they'll come in, their office session, and they just want to vent about this thing. And they want to do that for 30 minutes. And, I generally give people like 5-6 minutes to vent because we need to know we're going to work on that thing. But I feel like if we vent, we just get stuck in this cycle.
Right.
And we can kind of do that internally. Like our overthinking is sometimes venting internally,
Yeah.
where it's like I get myself stuck in this cycle of overthinking. And you talked about doing it on trial. So whether it is there at work that you're doing great, you got evals, your coworkers like you, your coworkers never support you. And we got to think about all these things. What facts are there that maybe the overthinking, negative self-talk that we aren't? I guess a good way to look at it.
Right.
Now, when you get to work, there might have been a little bit of this the other day, but when you get to work and you are overthinking, how does it work?
What it looks like to me when I'm overthinking at work is I am hiding in a bathroom stall, basically just avoiding life. I'm avoiding work. I'm avoiding life. Um, I'm avoiding the emotions that come with it. I'm just kind of sort of just isolating and numbing myself. I'm avoiding everything.
Yeah.
And that again, like once I do have to work, I'm in the wrong space of mind. I have the case of the efforts,
You
Can I
can
say
say
fuck?
yeah, you can say fuck.
Yeah.
Daddy issues.
I get the case of the fuckets. Like I don't care anymore. What's the point? I get very nihilistic. I start to think, what's the point of doing this? Like, well, we're all going to die eventually. Why am I going to just pay bills and die, And it's a horrible way of living. It's an absolutely horrible way of living. And to be honest, like it happens occasionally, not so frequently as before, but very occasionally, but I have to reassert my reassert my skill sets that I've learned now not to overcome those things and
Opportunity to use those skills. Well,
yeah.
so
And it's a practice. It's an exercise.
it sure is, and they're perishable, right? So
Yeah.
if you don't use those skills, you lose those skills. So you got to put them into practice every day. It's just like anything you do, and type, cooking, write up, all that stuff. You got to use those skills, or they just start to degrade over time.
Yeah.
And you go to access them one day and you find the name there anymore, right? And I was talking to my buddy Rob the other day. Like, let's say I turn 21 and I get a black, right? And then for 10 years, I'll practice those skills and I'll use those skills. Am I still a black belt?
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay. I earned that belt and that's cool. I'm going to have it, but that doesn't mean I'm capable of performing at that level
All the time.
all the time. Right?
Yeah.
I got to keep those skills up. Open bolted beginners everywhere, baby. The strange loves it. Safety first. Safety first. It's all about the safety. So overthinking isn't just a matter of I'm thinking too much. It keeps you from doing other shit, right? That kind of paralysis. You're in the bathroom hiding. For me, it's like, things like checking emails, making a phone call to make an appointment, that sort of thing can really trigger me. Whereas to tell me, I always use this example, but there's a dude in the parking lot with a machete. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, let's go get that dude. But you tell me, hey, I need you to return this call and make an appointment where you got to check your email and follow up on this. And
And why is that? Why is it that a guy with a machete, is it because with a guy with a machete, you already know what to do? You already know what to expect? Like you have some sense of control versus returning emails or returning calls. There's a sense of unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think it's exactly that. I'm just going to talk to the learner, and sometimes that happens with coping mechanisms. So we have an unhealthy coping mechanism, and we know it's unhealthy, but we'll still default to that one because it's no. it's comfortable. They fall to that unhealthy coping mechanism.
That reminds me, I remember asking you if you want to go on a roller coaster. And yeah, he absolutely hates going on roller coasters. I always wondered why, because, in my head, I'm thinking, you've been in a lot of life threatening situations. Roller coasters shouldn't be an issue for you. And lo and behold, he explained it to me how roller coasters, you have no sense of control at all.
None.
You're strapped into a seat. You have no way of escaping. Whereas a guy with a machete, you know exactly how to approach the situation. You have a sense of control. So yeah, makes sense.
Not that I won't feel any fear, not that I won't feel any stress or anxiety, but I know what to do with that kind.
Right.
Roller coaster, I'm out of control. Horror movies, I'm out of control. It's not even real.
Yeah.
I'm just watching on a screen. Most sort of thing is the day-to-day stuff. And this is true with a lot of military and first responders. We know how to deal with stress. We know how to deal with anxiety and pain. That we don't know how to deal with is everyday life, or God forbid, something like joy. Like I'm going to be happy. How do I do that? That's the stuff that I really struggle with. Let's take a quick pause, guys. We're going to get a little bit more focus, and you can get on the range. You're going to start making some mistakes, because the purpose of training is to make mistakes in a safe environment. And we're about to make mistakes today. We'll be right back. All right, so we just ran through a bill drill from about 5 yards, good self-defense range. Self-defense shootings are anywhere from arm's length, zero contact, 5 yards, 7 yards. The farther in you get, the less that self-defense and scenario. Both pull the shoot thing 25 yards, 50 yards, and know that you have that level of accuracy. But if you're doing work for self-defense, it's probably close. Think about like a home game, like a ball. Yeah. You should think maybe it's the next lives, kind of somewhere around there. That might be the longest back to your house. It's not quite. You're in a dispute. It's probably like this, or the road you guys coming up to your car and far length away. So we're dealing with things like that. So our groups are pretty tight. It's at that point, it's less side picture, and it's more how do you control the gun's motion and moving. So one of the things we talked about being thinking down there is I throw this little shot where first shots aren't where I want them to go. Do I start beating myself up? That's not that. No, it's just
Right.
today on the range. Yeah. No mistakes. So we're gonna get that one of the most that beat one of my favorite. Again, to the body, one of the but it's on that buildable again, really simple bullet jazz. And when it comes to skill, whether it's firearms, whether it's martial arts, judo, that's however it is. I like, oh, little guy,
Man down.
if you can win or you just started this. So when it comes to any of that skill building, I like little smooth and fast. And the idea there isn't that you stay slow forever. It's that you go just fast enough to where you can still be smooth with it, right? And eventually you just kind of put that pace. But I think a lot of skills are that way.
Yeah, there was a video that I saw on TikTok about there's a term for it. There's a scientific term for it, but basically, like on the line of slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Once you over, it's harder to take action. And once you trust the process, you can take action and you retain that focus.
And it's interesting too, because the thing about stress is stress is bad, stress is bad. Well, stress is a hell of a good training tool, and you got to build stress into these things. So over time, we do try to speed up. We shoot fast enough to stay within our skill set, but we push that, right? And if I heard, I think it was Jared Bernhardt years ago, world class shooter, obviously, but he said amateurs shoot it's perfect, and pros shoot until they make a mistake. So he was talking about speed and pushing itself at the speed where it's a little too fast, and then the skill set catch up. I guess. Now, here's the thing, though. Once we get our focus dialed in, like we're talking about, we start to build capability. And people talk a lot about confidence. They want to feel confident, feel confident. Confidence is a feeling, right? Capability is the fact. If I'm capable of doing a thing, I can demonstrate. If I feel confident in doing it, that's just a feeling, and I've still got to go demonstrate capability. Right. So I'm a big fan of building capability. And
I
then,
mean, like, how oftentimes do you see someone who has the confidence but doesn't know how to,
yeah,
who isn't capable?
yeah,
You know,
they believe they can, right? And people say, just believe, just
it's like when people say, whenever I get in a fight, that's overconfidence without it.
I'm gonna rise in the occasion. I was talking to Jared Rustin about that the other day. You know, a lot of dudes, they really believe, they're gonna protect the kids, partner, or whatever it is, that they're gonna rise to the occasion. You they don't do this shit, right? They don't do the fight, they don't fight, they go out to the range, they don't practice. They think they're gonna rise to the occasion. They're not. They're gonna fall to the level of their training. That's what all of us do. So if you make sure that your training is high level, you ain't got far to fall, right? And you're gonna come down to it. So capability. Does capability counter overthinking? So, like, your work, you're building skills, you're learning more every
Oh
day,
yeah,
and now you know, hey, I can get this. I'm more capable, right? And
right.
at least on that task, it kind of counters the overthinking, right?
Yeah. Oftentimes at work, especially since I work with planes and I'm fairly new with what I do, I lack the confidence. But once I realized that I could work through and keep moving and adapt to the situation, I then create capability, which then reassures myself that I have the confidence to do what I need to do. Or oftentimes have the confidence and realize if I don't know what I'm doing, I can always ask questions. I can always watch what people are doing.
Yeah,
I can always mimic what people are doing. So that creates capability and confidence for me to approach unknown situations with a little more of an edge.
nice.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about this, but like when you're going to work, you're kind of already psyching yourself out. Not you specifically, I mean, a lot of us, just psyching ourselves out. And that anxiety is like future trend. It's like your anxiety is making up future events that you don't happen or not. So in those moments, we've got to dial in our focus, our thinking on being in the moment, right? Instead of thinking about the future. How do I be in the moment? Driving in my car, do I just sing the song that's on the radio? So it's car thinking, overthinking. Do I now just turn on the radio, listen to some music, kind of be in the moment, enjoy the song? That could be a good way to do it. But guided meditation at night, if you're overthinking or even in the morning when you're ready, sit and do that guided meditation. That can be some useful stuff.
Yeah. What also helps me is realizing that I'm not the only one with my head cut off.
Yeah,
Like at work, I'm not the only one not knowing what to do in certain situations.
sure.
So the whole, like, I guess that also brings the idea of community. When you don't feel alone, isolated with the situation that you're dealing with, you have a better understanding on how to face the situation simply because you have the confidence knowing that you're not the only one. You're not being judged for being the only one not knowing what you're doing.
Good point. All right, y'all. We're gonna run back down. We're gonna run some build drills with these compacts, and probably gonna jump on my PCC here for a little bit and just put that through it. Then we're gonna get the boys down to St. George Street and see what we can do down there. Hang t- All right, pull this button. This elbow's that's hey, this elbow. And it does not shoot as fast as I want to. I just can't control the weapon like I want to. So I've still got some recovery to do in this arm. It's giving me a little bit of a self-esteem hit right now.
A little bit of self judgment going on.
A little bit of that, right? Because I was a pretty hell of a shooter, and then after this injury, this autoimmune injury just attacks my nerves. And I can't beat myself, can't touch my face, can't bench slap anybody. So it's the bad hands.
Beat up all the hands.
Yeah, I do that. Bench slap and love. It is. Uh, But it's kinda gnawing at me a little bit, it's one of those negative self-talk things, my brain starts to get suck. You're not gonna get that back, but I have to counter my brain and go, "No, no, we're gonna get it back, we're gonna work on that." It's just a matter of, waiting, getting it back up to spec.
Uh, that also falls to the top of resilience. And
Yeah, it does, and that's resiliency is such a big topic in our field, with military first responders, 'cause we know we're gonna encounter some nasty shit, right? Like, we know that's coming. Um, so how do we get through that? And one of the things I would love to see done differently is this idea of kind of like prehabilitation, right? Let's build these resilient skills into people for the experience of trauma, so they don't have to have the trauma hit and then let's deal with all that and then try to develop skills. But we really, well, Academy, we have none of that. I don't understand.
Like reality-based trainings.
Sort of kind of we can have RBT done, reality-based training plans, start to build those mind setting skills. The way we do it, we're particular about the way I run out. Nobody's going to lose their RBT. That doesn't mean things are easy. It doesn't mean they're not going to make mistakes. But when they do make mistakes and they do suffer consequences in training, you're going to back that up. And we're going to get what do you think love is? What actions you took that you think got you here? What do you think you could have done differently? Would you like to try it again with those collections? Yes. And we go back and do it again. So we'll fail at ABT, but we're not going to leave anybody in a place of failure.
And you then in CQB as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever you're training, even here, that mentality. Why am I not able to get fired fast enough? Should I got paid that? Although I can't control the move to follow. When it comes to the pistol, remember you are the weapons platform. The rifle is pretty steady, but you've got to control the move of the pistol. And most pistol accuracy is self-defense ranges is back the trigger, slapping the trigger. No, the ability to control the need of the firearm at the big side is repeated. So I'm not wrong with that. I've got to give myself space to brace to go, hey man, you got major nerve damage to the spine. It's atrophied, it's shrunk. So got to give yourself some time to get through that.
Yeah, you mentioned giving yourself grace, and that reminds me of the idea of approaching your tough situations with a humanist approach. Like, there's been times when I've relapsed in recovery, and in the past, I would always very much so defeat myself. I would sabotage myself. I would judge myself for relapsing in recovery. But what's helped me the most is approaching that situation with a humanistic approach. And when I say humanistic, I mean in a way of out of love, like realizing that you are a human being in the first place. You are a human being. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to relapse. You know, now that relapse, I've heard relapse is part of recovery, and it certainly doesn't have to be. But when it does happen, do you want to beat yourself up about it? No, absolutely not. You want to actually, you want to evolve. You want to evolve out of that, that self-deprecating thought process.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'll throw up an overlay that you guys can watch the podcast leads to see a kind of a graph. We're talking about the trend, we got the model of training. You go from pre-contemplation to processing to planning to decision to maintenance. A lot of professionals now talk about planning relapse relapse into legal behavior. This might not just be substance abuse. This might be nutritional relapse or relapse of bouts of anger when you try to manage your anger. So it could just be a relapse of your own behavior. But it's not necessarily you heard that said, it doesn't have to be part of the process, but it can often it is typically and that's and a do that. All right, we're gonna run a few more rounds of this steel. Guys, I'm gonna switch up the pieces here and play around that. Talk about this. All right, guys, in our next episode, we're going to talk about discipline and whether that's some alpha bullshit or if it's an actual skill that you can use to improve your life. Next time on Daddy's Issues.